David Rennie, my next guest, is an award-winning photographer. His exquisite photograph of the moment when an osprey and a spoonbill almost collide in mid-air won last year's SA Museum Nature Photographer of the Year award. And you can see the link to the story and the image of the photograph on our Late Afternoons SA Facebook page. It really is a mind-blowing shot. In fact, I remember standing in front of the image at the South Australian Museum when the exhibition was on, really transported into that drama of the moment. A collection of his works have been put together and published in a book called Art in Nature. And I'm delighted to welcome David Rennie to the program. Thank you very much for coming on to Late Afternoons here in South Australia and Broken Hill.
Thank you very much, Annette.
How did your journey into photography begin? I know it started very young, didn't it?
Well, actually, no, it started very late.
Officially, but didn't you get a camera when you were a kid?
Oh, yeah, I did. I got one of those, box brownies.
And that would have been a bit tricky to take shots of birds with that, wouldn't it?
Yeah, you couldn't do that. and you're allowed to shoot 12 rolls every 2 months because that's all you could afford to process.
Oh, not like that's the great thing about digital photography, isn't it? You can just get rid of the ones that are rubbish.
It truly is.
So at 47, what happened? At age 47?
I was on my way to work one day and a big shadow appeared on the bonnet of the car and I thought it was a pterodactyl, one of those prehistoric birds. And I stopped and followed it into a swamp and decided that it was a species no one had ever seen before. So I got back in the car, drove to a camera shop, bought a digital camera and a lens and went back and photographed it. And that's how it all started.
Really? And it was a spoonbill?
Yeah, it was just a common yellow-billed spoonbill. I thought it was some prehistoric bird.
Well, it must have felt amazing when you saw that shadow. I mean, it must have been an amazing experience.
Well, it was amazing enough to go, spend sort of $5,000 for a moment.
Well, spoonbills have been good to you because, as I was talking about, your photograph called Near Miss features a spoonbill, doesn't it?
It does. It does.
Yeah.
I sort of specialised at the end in three birds. I fell in love with three birds, the osprey, the spoonbill and the little egret. And they became my absolute passion. I followed them, tracked them, learn everything about them, and can't tell you why. They just tickled my fancy. So,
well, let's talk about the osprey because this image is actually in your book, Art in Nature, a photograph that really was in the making for 3 years. Can you tell us about that?
Well, I've been following the parents. They sort of mated and had their first batch of chicks, and then I followed them, and I just kept going back at breeding time, and then tried to find out where they go outside of breeding time. So it became a little, I suppose, a mission for me, if you know what I mean. There was no other reason for it, but I had to know what they were up to and what they were doing. And this was the third set of chicks, and she was learning to actually catch fish. She hit the water, I think, about 5 times that afternoon and missed every time, which they tend to do until they get clever at it. And no different to you and me, when she came out of the water this time, she looked back at her talons and opened and closed them as if to go, what's going on? The spoonbill was coming into land. There was no malice. It was just like you and I driving down the road and, someone pulls out in front of you. I'm not sure, but I think they might have just touched wings as they went past. And it was just, that was it. It was just, it was just there. It was a moment, and I was blessed enough to catch it.
And the other photograph I was thinking of too is the osprey with the fish in its talons with a moon in the background. And obviously the osprey is in flight. That took a long time to get, that one, didn't it?
That was, again, I think nearly 3 years in the making, that one. I saw them, there was a flight path they take when they're going back to the chicks with the fish. And once every, I think about twice a year, our moon is up at 3 o'clock in the afternoon when the sun's up. And, I saw the bird, the moon and all that, but I couldn't get the photo. And in the end, I just went back and I sat in this big tree and just waited and waited. First year it didn't happen, second year it didn't happen.
How long did you wait in the tree?
From about 12 o'clock onwards. They'd come back through in the afternoon with 3 or 4 times with their fish, but she never came close enough. She never, the moon wasn't where it was meant to be. You know what I mean? It was just, it just kept, you just kept missing it. So I just kept going back and back and back. And the third year, I think it was about the second day before the full moon, and everything just lined up. And that happens, because you're out there doing it. People say it's luck. It is. It's made luck, though. You know what I mean? Because you're out there, you sort of make things happen.
Well, you increase your chances, don't you, of seeing stuff?
You do. It's, I call it smelling the roses, which is what we don't do anymore. We go grab a deck chair and a coffee and just sit down at the wetland for an hour, and I'll guarantee you'll put 4 hours on your life.
You're a great, you feel very passionate, I know, about trying to preserve the wetlands where a lot of these photographs were taken. But you say in your book that what a tragedy it would be if, generations to come don't actually get to experience the natural world as we in this generation have got to experience it.
And truthfully, it is happening. It's not a matter of when it will happen. It's happening, and the day will come when it's going to be museums or books that it might be 2 grandkids or 3 grandkids down the track. Our wetlands has just been given the status of critical. It's dying. The birds are dying. They just won't come anymore. We've got birds that travel all the way from Russia that weigh an ounce in weight, and they're going to come one day, and what they need to replenish their bodies and be able to fly back to Russia is not going to be there. And it is a fact. It is a true fact now. We're not saying this to frighten anyone. It's the honest truth. They're dying at a rapid rate all around the world because we want to live too close, and we want to fertilise our grass, and we.
What, we take too much water, I think, is what you're saying.
Well, we change the water that goes in there. Everyone wants to live by water. So we all want grass, so we fertilise. Fertiliser goes into the water, creates algae. Algae takes the oxygen out. Next thing you know, you've got water with no oxygen, so nothing lives there. It becomes putrid, and everything dies. And it's happening worldwide. It's not just my little one in Mandurah. It's worldwide.
For all that time you were in the swamps, sometimes in waist-deep water, weren't you, for hours?
Up to your neck.
What was that like?
Up to your neck sometimes.
Up to your neck?
Seriously, you'd be crossing, and it got worse as the years went on. So at the start, I could cross places and the ground was firm underneath me, and 3 years later, you go to cross them and you actually sunk to your knees in this black ooze.
All right. So you were experiencing the deterioration in your beloved wetland.
Without realising it at the time. I did not realise it at the time. It wasn't until after I stopped photographing and I was looking back and I started to go, man, I just remember being there and there was 65 breeding pairs, and 3 years later there's only 2, and you couldn't walk in the water because it was like, it was like quicksand, and it stunk, and it dawned on me. It suddenly dawned on me that in the photos there was an actual photographic record of what had happened in just a 3-year period or 3.5-year period.
How many photographs do you take in a shoot on average? Is it thousands or hundreds? Or?
So if I go out, it's rare that I'll go out for a day. So say I go out for a week and I shoot. Understand too, with my bipolar, I go for a whole week and don't need to sleep. I go day and night for 7 days and 7 nights and don't have to sleep. So I've learned to shoot every minute of the day in some way possible. So I'll go out for a week. I can come back with 5,000 images in a week.
5,000?
Yeah. Yep.
And then how long do you spend processing all of them, or do you just...
No, I can't do that. So what I do is out of every shoot, I look for one photo, just one.
Out of 5,000?
Yeah, just one. Yeah, I'm after just one photograph that for me gave me the sense of what I was doing out there or what I was trying to, you know what I mean? Like, I just wanted one. So I'd flick through them, and if it was the 4th one, then I've never seen the rest of the photos. They've all been stored. I've got probably 1 million photographs I've never, ever seen. Ever.
Really?
Yeah, seriously. And I did that for one day because I knew I wouldn't be able to shoot forever. And then one day I thought, well, at least I'll have something I can go back to then and go through again and look for that one, and go through again and just look for that one. I've probably only ever processed 600 or 700 photos out of all of them. And originally, Annette, they were never for anyone to see. They were just for me to help with, my bipolar. They were just, I took them for me, not for anyone else. So,
are you happy to share them now?
It's taken a while, and I'm happy to share some of them, not all of them, because again, I look at that photograph and I know where I was mentally, physically. You know what I mean? It's they're actually a snapshot into my mind.
Well, one of the photographs looks like an impressionist painting, and you say you can't replicate how you set up the camera to do that in spite of your efforts. It really does look like an impressionist painting. That was... and you say that reflects the state of your mind at the time.
Yeah, that was Man by a Tree. Several times in my my life, I've gone between 10 and 14 days without having to sleep, which I think is about the limit of what a human being can truly endure. That photo was taken on the 14th day of one of the most manic phases I was ever in. And when I took it, I thought it was sharp and clear like every other photo I've ever taken. And I actually deleted it. I threw it out. And my wife, about 2 years later, was going through the delete pile, and she said, no, there's something special about this. And anyway, I printed it up and put it on my office wall, and then I went out and tried to actually make it happen again, and I've still to this day never been able to make it happen. So understand, I don't know how it happened, it just happened, and that was a real snapshot of someone, I think, at the end of his tether.
But you do say that your bipolar in many ways has made you the photographer that you are.
That's true, man, that's true. It gives you I have a very creative side, and every 3.5 years I do something different. I painted for 3.5 years, I sculpted for 3.5 years, made things out of wood for 3, and then one day I just wake up and I don't want to do it anymore. I've done it. And what tended to happen too is it always became a business. People say, oh, we want to buy that, and then your ego kicks in and you go, okay, I can make a living out of this, so you quit all your jobs, and then one day it's your living, it's not your creative outlet, which I've struggled with the photography, because I've loved that more than anything. So that's been a hard one for me to try and make a little bit of money out of it, but not make it a business.
You say that you've got a neck injury now and that you can't carry around those large lenses like you used to be able to get those extraordinary bird shots. Is that why you've gone into landscape photography? Just a different kit?
Yep, absolutely. I've got ankylosing spondylitis. All the bones in my body are fusing together, and lying on the ground looking up and carrying... And again, too, and I didn't go out with one camera and one lens. I'd go out with 3 cameras around my neck, 600mm, 400mm, 300mm. We actually weighed them all up one day, and it's like 30 kilos,
right.
5 kilos. Then a backpack with maybe 50 kilos of gear on the back, and off you go. And it's no wonder, at the end of the day, it's no wonder that bones don't work as good as they should anymore when you think about it.
Well, they are extraordinary photographs, David Rennie, and as I said, I remember standing in front of it at the SA Museum exhibition of your near-miss shot, thinking, I don't think I've ever seen anything like that in my life.
Well, thank you.
And your book is, it has extraordinary images capturing really the soul of those species that you love so much, the spoonbill and the little egret and the osprey. Something very, very multi-layered about your work, and I'm thankful that you have now decided to share it with the Australian public, and we wish you well.
And I'm very humbled, and I mean that. I thank you very much.
All the best. David Rennie, thanks very much for your time today.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Photographer David Rennie, my guest. His book is